And I'm always trying to get more reading in because it makes me feel so smart. So I'm listening to a lot of titles right now, and I'm doing that with Audible.
I am about to embark on a journey with the audio title The Plot by Jean Hanff Corlitz, and I'm really excited that Audible is there to help me.
As an Audible member, you can choose one title a month to keep from their entire catalog, including the latest bestsellers and new releases. There are thousands of titles. Try Audible free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/crappens or text crappens to 500-500. That's audible.com/crappens or text crappens to 500-500.
I'm Anna.
And I'm Emily, and we're the hosts of Terribly Famous, a new podcast from Wondery.
From Adele to Victoria Beckham and Lily Allen, we take you inside the drama-filled lives of our most talked-about celebrities to find out what it's like to walk in their shoes.
She means their beautiful Prada shoes.
Listen to Terribly Famous wherever you get your podcasts.
Watch what crappens, watch what crappens. Who cares what happens when there's so much that crappens? Crappens, crappens, crappens. Watch what crappens, watch what crappens. Who cares what happens when there's so much that crappens? Watch what crappens, watch what crappens. Who cares what happens when there's so much that crappens?
Hello and welcome to Watch What Crappens, a podcast about all that crap on Bravo that we just love to talk about. I'm Ben Mandelker, and joining me today is the one and only Ronnie Karam. Hi, Ronnie. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. So good to see you, my little Hanini.
So good to see you, too. How are you doing? Are you excited to talk about the Real Housewives of Atlanta season finale episode?
Well, I sure am.
Yeah. So much has happened.
I'm glad it was the season finale. That's for sure. It was a long, rough season, but they did it. I was real proud of our girls for getting through it, doing the whole season, not quitting in the middle. You know,
yeah,
it was fun. I'm still in lovely Palm Springs, so
beautiful.
We could talk about whatever the hell we want. I was trying to figure out a way to do this podcast from the actual swimming pool, floating around on the thing. But unfortunately, I get too many chemical peels, so my skin is about as thin as tissue paper, and I will look like Freddy Krueger by the end of it. So we're going to settle for this couch.
I like it. You're color coordinated. So yeah, if you want to see this video, if you want to see Ronnie on his Palm Springs couch, go to patreon.com/watchforcrappens and sign up for Crappens on Demand. You'll get to watch these videos. Also, you have access to our bonus episode, which will be coming out later this week. Very excited for that. Those are always so fun. And you have access to all our previous bonus episodes, which is really cool because we have like 500 of them, I think, somewhere around there. Also, next Monday, we got Crappy Hour. Come join us for that on Instagram. There'll be more details as we approach that, but that's basically us chatting Bravo on Instagram. So that's cool. So Atlanta. So some things to talk about, I feel like, right before we even dive into it. First of all, with this finale, Kenya has been stirring up some drama on Twitter, etc., because she has a whole storyline about the Kenya Moore Salon, and she has an opening for it. It's a big party, and it wasn't even included in the season beyond a brief allusion to it on this episode, sort of flashback style.
It was included. They went to see it being built twice.
Right.
She had her boring friend that didn't work out, Akila, and then they showed it in the end thing.
Akila did get a Chiron this week, so I was proud of her. She's back in the fold. But basically though, like, it was a whole party, and Kenya was really upset that they didn't show this whole scene. They did all this work and it wasn't even included. I can understand her frustration because the truth is that Kenya, this entire season, it's been her at her kitchen feeding Brooklyn for the majority of the season. And Brooklyn is very cute, but like, it's getting to the point where when we get to Kenya scenes, you just know it's going to be some dumb patter with the kid. And like, I can understand if Kenya is like, this is bullshit. People are only seeing me standing behind a table or standing behind a kitchen island preparing food for my kid, and I'm actually doing things. I'm frustrated.
Not, though. She's not doing things. She didn't build that restaurant with her or that salon with her hands. She was jealous at the finale party. She's mad because the Marlo party they filmed, the foster kid Friday things, they filmed and they showed everybody going. And she was the only one who didn't go to that. But then the only one she didn't invite to her thing was Marlo. And so now they're saying like they're trying to build up Marlo and screw me over by showing Marlo's party and then Candy's big party, but they won't show my party. Well, first of all, you won't invite the whole cast. You were invited to the Marlo party, I'm assuming. Second of all, you haven't done shit this season. I don't want to watch you to ask your kid what dress she thinks is cute to wear. And then you had the shittiest cast trip I think we've ever seen when you made everybody go to Alabama. Then you did nothing to get your fucking show ready, so you were afraid of flopping terribly and canceled that and pretended you were sick and got taken to the hospital. And then you got taken to the hospital and missed another group trip on the very next group trip, then wouldn't film after with anybody. You've been nothing but a pain in the ass, and if production is not wanting to show you, I don't fucking blame them. Team production on this one. Team production.
Well, to me, it
you
speaks...
give nothing, this is what you get. Especially for somebody who's been fired before and then given another chance and brought back. You really are doing nothing. You're trying to block other people from being filmed by not speaking to them, not fighting with them, not doing your thing. Nobody wants to watch that, Kenya. You can go complain on Carlos King all you want to. This is your bed. Enjoy lying in it.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with all those points. I think for me, it's not that I care about seeing the salon and it's just like more promotion for Kenya. To me, it just speaks to kind of the dysfunction of this entire season, that they have these giant events that aren't even making it to air. And the reason why they're not making it to air is probably because production is mad at Kenya. And the fact that production is mad at Kenya and this is how they're waging their war, if that is true, it just speaks to the entire dysfunction of the show. I think that Kenya, one of the greatest reality TV villains of all time, but she is no longer in it. She has to go. I've said in the past, I was vocal that Nene had to go when Nene had to go, Portia had to go when Portia had to go, Kenya has to go. In fact, I would say the majority of the people on this show have to go, and that includes the producers. I think the producers are doing a terrible job too. I think it's like failures on every level. Sheree suddenly has like a father who's sick, and then bloop, that's happening, and then like not even that, like she has a father who's sick. It's suddenly like, oh, by the way, my dad died, and it's like, what? But he was sick. And I'm not saying that like, oh, like that has to be exploited or whatever, but it's like, why are we getting such like nonsense when there's real shit happening in people's lives? And why are you starting off a season with Sheree and Martell at this sham of a relationship, which looks like it's going to be so funny to watch, this ridiculousness. And then we don't get any Martell. We don't get any Sheree. It just feels like there are threads that are picked up and then just dropped. And I just like, I don't know, maybe it's Bravo's fault, maybe it's maybe it's the stars' fault, maybe it's the producers. The point is there's rot in this show, and this show has been so great in the past, and it's time to restore it. It's time. This show needs its revamp.
Well, Kenya was complaining today on Twitter that, they look at another Candy thing. Great. We get to see all of Candy's businesses, her movie, her sex toys, her this, her that. Not one for me. I'm like, well, don't come for Candy because she's been on your side. Like, I think she's been nothing but helpful to you. And Candy's businesses also lead to storyline. Her movie led to this whole hookup that happens that ends this whole season on a decent note. The Peach Buzz thing was one of the only decent fights in the whole show, where they brought LaToya back to have that fight. That was pretty good. I mean, at least her things lead to something, Kenya. You're just like a Costco tray at sample. You're like a sample tray at Costco that you just want everyone to sit there and film. It's not all about kissing your ass while you do nothing. You've done fucking below nothing this season, and that's your own fucking fault. Get it together. Like, instead of rallying around Kenya, everybody needs to tell her to turn the finger pointing the other way and blame her for wasting our fucking time, because she wasted a lot of footage that could have been decent had she engaged with anybody on the show.
Yeah, I agree. And then it was hilarious Sunday morning when The Pass showed up on Peacock. It's like, of course it showed up. We should have anticipated it would show up on Peacock on Atlanta finale day. And of course, this was all a corporate synergistic ploy drives interest to Peacock, and then Peacock drives interest to the finale. Of course, we should have seen it coming. It made me kind of annoyed. Then it also made me kind of laugh. Like, of course. So that being said, I started watching The Pass. I got through the first 10 minutes. I wanted to watch more, but I had a very busy day on Sunday, and so I had to put it on pause, and I was planning to circle back to it at the end of the night when I was done taking notes. And then when I was done taking notes, New York and Atlanta kind of like drained me, and so I just went to sleep and woke up this morning and podcasted. So I feel really bad that I've not watched more than 10 minutes of this shit show, but the 10 minutes that I watched of The Pass were so hilariously terrible, like amazingly terrible, that I am 100% going to go and finish watching this dreadful hate watch movie.
It was terrible. So I'm halfway through, so I haven't seen the whole thing either, but I made it further than you. First, it starts with, you will never believe who's making this film.
Wait.
First, it says like
Spielberg.
Todd. It's called like My Mom. I love
It's
My
like
Mom
Sharon
Productions.
Yeah, something like that. With Sharon,
like Mama
Sharon's boy.
Sharon Productions or something. And it's a logo for that. And under that, it says, I have the best goddamn son in the world. And then another made by producer thing comes up, and it's the Candy Coated Productions logo.
Right.
And then another one comes up, and it says Todd Tucker Productions.
Yeah.
And then the first title to come up is Todd Tucker Productions and Candy Burris Tucker present. And then it comes up a film by Todd Tucker.
It does the
and then
Candy and
it comes up
Todd's.
Candy Burris. I'm like, you guys, we fucking know. Okay, stop.
This is not.
Also, we know that you literally filmed this movie with your own two hands. To put your name over every fucking second of it and to make it like it's 5 of your production companies making it. Give me a fucking break, you two.
And, you know, yes, there is a base level of pride that you should have, that you made something, you generated some, you made a movie. That is an accomplishment, no matter what type of movie it is. It's very exciting. I'm excited for you guys, but let's also not act like you just release like The Crying Game or something like that. Okay, this is not a prestige picture. Okay, this is garbage. I'm sorry. It was like I could already tell this was going to be like a 90-minute version of the MTV show Undressed. It was just so it was so janky, and I think I said in a recent recap that the way they were shooting the film reminded me of when I was in 9th grade and I had a camcorder. I'd make little movies in my house, and I'd just shoot my house from different angles and make it seem like it was different locations. And then actually seeing it in execution, it really did look like that. Especially because it's like, you don't realize how much you know Candy's house until you see it as the backdrop in a movie, and you're like, wait a second, this is Candy's dining room. I cannot be taken out of this.
It's also really funny to me that it's all shot from below.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like
It's
someone
all
really
low.
short is shooting it. They don't. It's like, was Todd literally holding the camera? Was he the cameraman too? Because it's from down here. It's like whoever the camera person was did not have the camera on a mount, or maybe it was, but it was just like up to the height that Todd could see. I mean, I don't even know, but it was all shot from below. And then when someone too tall is in the frame, you don't see the person in the frame. They literally have to scrunch down to get into the frame.
Everything.
There's one point where Drew and her husband, Drew plays the wife and some other guy plays her husband, and they have them sitting at dinner together, and the camera is pulled back here. They have a candle that's covering half of Drew's face.
The staging is so fucked up in every shot.
You don't notice that there's a candle in front of Drew's face, and then Drew's like
artistic?
really pretending to eat, or maybe really eating. I don't know. But there's a lot of mouth sounds in this movie, which I hate. Drew's eating. She's like, well, you know, I'm working very hard on this project, honey.
Yeah.
And then her mom at some point is helping her make chili, and her
Yes,
mom's like,
I saw that part.
let me taste the chili, honey. You can't make chili as good as I can. It was making me fucking crazy. I'm like, you guys can pretend. Stop fucking smacking your mouth.
Yeah, and on top of that, like everything is shot with like a medium. It's not a close up. It's not a wide shot. It's just like a medium shot. It's like, but a little like it's like medium plus. It's like a little close, and the staging is weird. There'll be like 2 people, and they'll be like talking, and they'll be sort of in the middle or to the right on the screen, and there's all this negative space behind their heads, and then they'll be in that scene with the chili at one point. So it's Drew Drew and like Drew's character and her mom, and then the husband, who, by the way, the actor literally looks like Ralph, which is hilarious. So he's in there, and at one point they're talking, and Drew is like cheated away from the camera talking to him. I'm like, what is happening here? And then they start, the issue is that what we find out in that scene is that the Ralph type character, he works in real estate, and in the previous scene where I guess, I don't know enough about the movie, it seemed like he was with his mistress at a jewelry shop. He's like, I'm going to buy this.
Her partner? Like later we find out that's her partner in
So
business, I think.
Okay,
It's like
because that's
one
what
of
I was
their
saying.
friends.
That's why I was like, I don't know, because in that scene it's alluded to that like it seems like this woman's like his mistress, like his girlfriend, and then I don't know, but he gets taken off of this like real estate deal. It turns out it's Drew's mom who has taken him off this thing, and so then he is like in the scene with Drew and Drew's mom, and they're talking about real estate, and the scene goes on for like 10 minutes, and then I think in an attempt to create like realism, they start talking about all the nitty gritty about real estate. Like,
And
why
it's
is
all
this scene still
incorrect.
going?
It's all like weird. They just keep saying weird real estatey things that just don't sound right. Like he'll be going, but what are you talking about? Why would you take me off of that deal? I have full cash in his bank account and I checked his cash. And she's like, well, you didn't do the paperwork. He's like, I did. I saw the bank account with the cash. And she says, well, his wife, who just filed for divorce yesterday, has now frozen his bank accounts, which you would have known about had you done your homework. I'm like, what? What
it's like-
homework is that? Would he hire a PI to go follow around the wife to find out if the wife was going to leave him? Like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah, and they start like talking about this crazy backstory about someone who's buying a house, and it's like trying so hard to do something and going on and on about this real estate deal. And I'm like, are we going to get into the nitty gritty of like, and you didn't sign the DocuSign? I sent an email and you did not confirm, and that's not even your signature.
That was part of it, wasn't it? It was like he didn't even do some. He didn't do some kind of paperwork.
But then she leaves, and he's like, well, she doesn't know that I found out that he has an offshore account. I was like, well, how did you find that out? You're a real estate agent. You're like, why do you know that?
And why wouldn't you bring it up? They have another scene where the plot comes in, where the pass idea comes in, and it's all the guys golfing, okay? The guys stand in a straight line, literally stand in a straight line, and talk at the camera. They don't even turn towards each other while they're talking. They don't make a semicircle while they're talking. They stand in a straight line and speak, like kind of tilt their heads at each other while they're talking to the camera. It is possibly the worst thing. I cannot with this. Like, well, I get it. Like, people have time to learn, you know. It's not that you'll always be a terrible fucking filmmaker, but did you even think of anything beyond just spending Candy's money because you don't feel good enough having your own thing? You wouldn't even take a film class? Like, did you even think to take a basic 101 level film class? Because this was embarrassing. And the whole character of the mom is so obviously based on his problems with Mama Joyce.
Right.
And the way that he phrases it in the movie is that Candy is just some trust fund kid. And she doesn't, even though she does work hard, she doesn't have to work hard. So nobody really gets it. And Todd has to take shit from her mom, but he really shouldn't have to take shit from her mom. And it's really somehow everybody else's fault that this guy has no success at his age. It's the mom's fault for holding him back. It's not his fault for ever doing something on his own, to ever fucking earn something on his own. It's still somehow blamed on the mother-in-law who hasn't given him what he deserves yet. I mean, it's really sad to watch, and it's like you see it in action in this film where he just wants to take the money to put Todd Tucker on the beginning of a film, but he can't even go to a fucking film school for a 6-week course. You know what I mean? It's just embarrassing.
Or
The
just
whole
like read
thing
a book.
is
Like just
wow.
buy a book. And then we also have to talk about Drew's performance, because Drew does have legitimate credits as an actress. So I know she is a legitimate actress, but I have to say, it now makes me realize, watching Real Housewives of Atlanta, that so many things that she does on that show are sincere, because we've seen now what she's like when she acts, and she's not great. She's not great, but I also blame the direction, because I feel like Todd did something like this. Todd probably said to them like, hey, just so you know, this isn't theater. You don't have to project. So then they became nervous about over projecting, because every scene with Drew, she is like mumbling
talks like
quietly.
this.
She's like,
she really does.
oh, I love doing interior design. And then she overacts whenever she gets like a text message at one point, and she has the biggest overreaction. She goes, like she's surprised she gets a text. She's like, oh, it's from my husband. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, but I mean, I'm enjoying it. I had just taken an Ambien, so I fell asleep during the middle, but I'm going to finish the rest of it tonight.
Yeah.
But
I hear there's a twist ending.
Yeah, I know. So I haven't read any of the comments, so I don't know what everyone else is thinking about it, but I thought, yikes. I wasn't expecting it to be great, but yikes, Todd. Like filming from below and then having a candle covering Drew's face and having people smack and make mouth noises into the camera. I have to say, it was pretty bad. And Drew's acting was pretty bad. I can see why she doesn't work that much. Sorry. I feel bad.
But you know what, though? At the end of the day, it's also smart because basically a whole bunch of people probably watched this movie. More people watch it than probably it would have gotten an audience for. It was put very high profile on Peacock, and we all were curious. And people are going to watch it. People are going to hate watch it, and it's going to do very well. So, you know. But you know what though? But I credit Candy for that. I don't credit Todd. I credit Todd for saying he wanted to make a movie, and I credit Candy. I feel like Candy is the one who's like, okay, I'm going to prove this because I know we could do some synergy with Peacock. You know,
which she did. Yeah,
I have no evidence for this, but we have to know all the big ideas come from Candy, and all the shitty movies that are like. Those come from Todd because he probably wanted to sell it to an actual distributor, you know, like he probably wanted to sell it to Paramount and get like get it into theaters for Nicole Kidman to watch it, you know.
Yeah, well, I was thinking that's what it was going to be, weren't you?
No, it was exactly the way I thought it would be.
Oh. Yeah,
in terms of the quality of the
like
movie.
a movie, and then you'd be like, what was the box office? You know, and we'd have all that, but it was the straight, you know, which a lot of things just release on Peacock now. That's not that abnormal, but I guess I should have expected it.
Commercials. Here comes one right now.
Do you want to smell better everywhere? Because let's face it, our underarms are not the only place we have odor, Ronnie.
Yep, that's why we're excited to tell you about Lumi Whole Body Deodorant for pits, privates, and beyond.
So Lumi was created by an OBGYN who developed a uniquely formulated pH-balanced deodorant.
It's aluminum-free, skin-safe, and clinically proven to control odor for up to 72 hours. Oh, and did we mention it's also clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone?
Yeah, like 12 hours after a shower, the average person has an odor level of like 6 out of 10. That's after only 12 hours. But with Lumi, the average odor level is literally 0 out of 10. I am literally sitting here just sniffing this delicious whole body deodorant. I've got the toasted coconut right in front of me. It smells so wonderful. I feel like I'm actually being transported somewhere else. It literally is like, I literally cannot stop smelling it. Ronnie's watching me. He can see.
As a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a Lumi starter pack with code CRAPPINS at LumiDeodorant.com. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you visit LumiDeodorant.com and use code CRAPPINS.
Since his death in 2009, the world has struggled with how Michael Jackson should be remembered, as the king of pop or as a monster. I'm Leon Nafok, the host of Fiasco and the co-creator of Slow Burn.
And I'm Jay Smooth, a hip-hop journalist and cultural commentator. Michael Jackson was accused of child molestation for the first time in 1993. Our new podcast, Think Twice, Michael Jackson, is the story of what came before and what came after.
Throughout the podcast, we explore what makes Michael Jackson seemingly uncancelable. And we dig into the complicated feelings so many of us have when we hear Billie Jean at the grocery store.
Through dozens of original interviews with people who watched the story unfold firsthand, Think Twice is an attempt to reconcile our conflicted emotions about Michael Jackson, the man, with our deep-seated love of his art.
Listen to Think Twice, Michael Jackson, wherever you get your podcasts, or you can binge the entire series ad-free on Audible or the Amazon Music app.
So anyway, the other thing that they're doing wrong, again, it's like, you guys, Vanderpump Rules, that was great. Someone cheated. Then they got found out at the end. Then you had to pick up production. It doesn't mean it's going to work for every single show.
No.
It doesn't work for this show. I'm sorry. It's just an
doesn't.
obvious ploy to copy Vanderpump Rules. Kyle Richards does it in the next season of Beverly Hills. We already know that season sucks because they had to resort to this new trope of like, we didn't find out that Kyle's accused of being a part-time lesbian until the show stopped. So now we have to pick up filming for 2 weeks. And they have nothing to pick up filming for. It was just so sad.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I love that they had to pick up filming after 2 weeks and still didn't put Kenya Moore hair care in there.
I know. Yeah, this was... Okay, this episode did not need to be supersized because, again, there was like 10 minutes of people walking into this party. And then we get to the Drew Sidora part, it just goes and goes. And there's some like fun, like the Courtney thing. We're going to get to all this, obviously. There's some funny stuff in there, but they elongate that too. It's like, Drew is coming in for her interview. And now Drew is in makeup. And now Drew is tortured. And now Drew has dots all over her face and she's tortured. And now she's saying hi to Sheree. And now she's tortured again. I'm like, this 2 minutes. This whole thing needed 2 minutes. Drew says her piece. Ralph says his piece. We get to the scandalous stuff. We get to the hot mic. The fact that they were drawing this out because there was nothing here. There was nothing like beyond like mildly interesting, you know? I should say it was interesting. It was fun to watch. It was funny to watch. But they drew it out as if this was a scandal that had captivated America. And I'm sorry, I do not think this captivated America.
Well, it got upstaged by Vanderpump Rules. I mean, like
Literally.
immediately. Or wait, which one upstaged it? It was Kyle, I think, that upstaged
well,
this one, right?
So this all broke March 1st.
Oh,
and
so
I
it
think
was
that Vanderpump Rules, the Scandival happened like 2 days later, right? Like March 1st was a Wednesday. March 3rd. Yeah, March 3rd was that Friday. That Friday was when it all happened because then then March 8th was when we went to Charlotte. And that was our first live show that we did after Scandival. So they 100% got upstaged by Scandival. That is hilarious.
But also, it's just not as big of a story. It's like, wow, your piece of shit husband was a piece of shit?
Exactly.
I can't believe it. I'm so shocked. The more scandalous stuff came out later as they needed to leak more because nobody cared. You know?
Yeah.
So then we go over. Then this isn't going to be like a line by line recap because, like, we've already talked about most of it, and not really much happens. So let's just kind of go through the basics here.
Wait, you don't want to talk about Sheree and Cairo and Mecca at a baby gym watching Mecca walk or crawl? No? Okay.
And then Kenya Moore hair care. She is doing Brooklyn's hair. Then we go see Candy and Todd get a massage because they're so nervous about the premiere. They're talking about their premiere party. And then Sonia goes to Dr. Jackie and they're basically talking about how Marlo's coming because Sonia needed some support and Marlo's there for anybody in a pinch. I was like, wait till Marlo turns against you, Sonia. You're really riding hard for somebody who's proven over and over again to be a complete fucking monster. So have fun with that.
Yeah, so she's getting an ultrasound and Marlo's recording it for Ross. And Sonia's basically like, look, I want to get this ultrasound. And she's like, I want to basically be as ridiculous with this pregnancy, like be all as excited as the first one because, you know, my parents fostered an environment where I was kind of the star and my sister hated that. And I mean, look at her now. Look at Sherry now living in her condo and not with my like Olympic quality house. So, you know, let me just not have a Sherry. That's what I want. I just don't want to have a child that reminds me of my younger sister and all her resentments.
So Jackie tells her that she's 5 weeks along, and Sonia's like, but I told Ducey I was 5 weeks ago. I mean, what the hell? It's like I'm going backwards now. And she's like, well, I don't want to rain on your parade, but you shouldn't be involving the kid. I mean, you're not supposed to be telling anybody till 12 weeks. And Marlo's like, I'm glad you mentioned that, Jackie. You've told everyone too soon. And then we go over.
I have to say, I loved when Jackie walked in the room and she looks at Marlo and goes, is this your sidekick for today? Like there was something like very dismissive. Like, I know who Marlo Hampton is. Really? This is who you brought into my office?
So then we go to Drew and Ralph. Okay, so Drew is texting Don Juan about the rap party, and she has to be there at sound check. And I'm like, why would she have to be at sound check for a rap party? Because Drew gets to promote her multiple businesses too. It's not just a rap party. It's also Drew lip syncing to a song, which I love that she has to do sound check for a song she's going to sing to track. But whatever.
I love the fact that we can't remember why Drew needs to sing and her song is literally called "You Already Know." Like we already know why she has to do it, and we don't even care. We already
knew this was happening. I mean, that's like the plot of the entire season. We already knew.
I know. So she's in bed, and Ralph comes lumbering in. And she's like, "Oh, I feel like I haven't talked to you or anything." He's like, I've been busy. You know, work's been a grind, you know, while you're out there shooting a movie. I'm like, well, so she's not allowed to be busy too? Like, because he says it like, oh, you're shooting a movie. Like, that's like it's some sort of like dalliance. It's like, no, that's like literally her job. And your job does not take precedence over her, you idiot. So, they're just like talking about that. And
he's like, you were just shooting sex scenes. That's what you were doing. And she's like, oh, so that's what's going on? Out of 100 pages, that's one little thing? And he's like, you act like I don't know what's going on. I know what's going on. And she's like, well, I just want you to know that I got 1 hour of sleep because I got 1 hour of sleep and I still took JoJo to school. And he's like, I tried to help you. And she's like, what are you talking about? You left the room. And he's like, well, I left the bedroom because it's disruptive. You know, you come in at 3:30 to go to sleep and I'm up for like 2 hours after that. So I had to do what I had to do.
Which is just go into another room. I don't understand. And so she's like, well, when are you going to move back? And he goes, you know, whenever we can get some stability. I'm like, what are you talking about? The movie's over. Now all of a sudden it's about stability. So I mean, he's so full of shit at all times, and I'm like really happy to have gaslighting, full of shit Ralph back, as opposed to like the smiling, you know, everything's wonderful Ralph. So now Drew is talking about Courtney, because Drew is really fixated on Courtney maybe calling her a bitch, which is honestly such a tenuous drama to hang so much of this finale on. Again, another issue with this season, this stupid fight about whether or not this happened.
I think the whole point is that she's telling Ralph, like, oh, you're the one to be like, this is my cousin. And now her whole thing is that she's your cousin in our family. And this is who you're going to let call me a bitch. Like, I think the whole point is like, she wants him to stand up for her and he's refusing to stand up for her.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't mind that being something because that's about relationships. But like, a large part of this, though, is about Drew being like, you called me a bitch. Then you said you don't even use the word bitch. So then she shows Ralph the video and he's like, meh. She's like, well, how'd that make you? Aren't you like, doesn't that make you upset? And he goes, yeah, well, I heard Kenya call you bitch. I heard Marlo call you a bitch. I heard most of America call you a bitch. I mean, I don't know. It's stupid.
Yeah, it's like, you're cool with all of them. And she's like, it's not about the word, Ralph. You don't know her. You don't know her. You met her like yesterday. I'm telling you, this is who she is behind our back. And he goes, not behind our back. Was she offensive to me behind my back? No, it was you. Your back.
Which is a shitty thing for a husband to say. Also, though, I love Drew being like, you just met her a few days ago. I'm like, you were the one who spent most of the season being like, my cousin, well, Courtney's family. I'm like, you met her 2 seconds ago and you just made her, like, you gave her family bond, you know? Right. But Ralph is shitty in this situation for being like, well, she wasn't bad to me, so I don't have a problem with her, you know?
Yeah, Drew's like, well, he's basically saying, fuck my feelings, you know? And he goes, okay, so let me get this straight. So Kenya's called you a bitch. Marlo and Candy called you a bitch. What do you want me to do? Attack them and say my wife's not a bitch? Some things just aren't worth it. And so she just leaves the room. And she's like, God, what is with this motherfucking world? So she goes downstairs, and it's a shaky cam because they weren't supposed to be filming down there today, but Drew left the scene. So the camera follows her down there, and Allison's in the kitchen. And
Allison
she's
gives
like,
such a nasty look. By the way, Allison's in the kitchen, just sees Ralph come in and gives such a nasty look to Ralph. It was wonderful.
And Drew's like, I'm just tired. I don't have the energy. And remember at the retreat when Courtney said she doesn't say bitch? And Allison's like, yes, she looked me right in the face and she said she never said that word bitch. And Ralph's like, okay, so I've seen Drew call you a bitch before. Shit happens. So what?
Allison goes, let me help you, okay? If she called her a banana and she doesn't like that, then that's enough. Like, how about like that? How about that? Like, so if there's something that bothers her, that's all you start with. She's basically like, I don't care who said what. Your wife is upset and you've got to fix this. And Ralph was like, Allison, I got this. Trust me. I believe I got it. And she's like, well, you don't have this because you just brought me into it. And I'm just sitting here washing dishes and giving you nasty looks, which is like my favorite thing. I was so happy. God, I love doing that. Just looking at you walk into a room and glaring makes me so happy.
And Drew's like, can we just please take off my mic? And he's like, why are you crying? And she's like, I just can't believe you. You embarrass me right now. You didn't have to say anything. I'm tired. I'm working so much. And now you're showing yourself to be an asshole when we've been spending this whole season trying to make everybody think you're not an asshole. Like, what are you doing? She's another Shannon Bedore where she just wants to put this perfect thing up there. And it just never works,
And then Allison
Allison starts crying, of course, because she's Allison. So she's like, what is wrong with you? Just stop. What is wrong? I was like, Ralph, just go away, for fuck's sake. And now look what you've done.
Allison's like, I was having such a good day. Why would you do this? By the way, Allison is doing more on this show than I would say 90% of the cast members. So then, and Ralph was like, oh, So then we go to Sheree, and she has left a fibroid clinic where something happened. We don't know what. Maybe she got a checkup. Maybe she got fixed. But she's left the fibroid clinic. She's with her daughter. And then basically just like Sheree and her daughter are just like talking about Bob and how he brought a new child. And Sheree essentially says like, look, I know my kids, like even if my kids knew about this girl, and it seems like they did, it's not their responsibility to tell me about the daughter. It was Bob's responsibility. Those are the kids. It shouldn't be on them. Bob should have told me, and that's on Bob.
Yeah, fuck that. I would have been pissed at the kid. I would have been like, really? So you're just going to keep Bob's secrets? Great. Get the fuck out of my car. Like, am I supposed to go buy you Wendy's now? Get the fuck out of here. But whatever. Each family is their own. So then we go to Kenya and Brooklyn, and her father is there, Ronald.
Yep.
And she's like, Brooklyn and my dad hadn't even met until this year, 2 months ago. And we see the cameras rolling for that one. And I was like, do you guys not have any time that the cameras aren't there? I like that Kenny just called her dad when they need to shoot with him. And then she's like, get out. I'll see you next season, you fucking loser.
Seriously. So then she tells her dad that she's thinking about adding to the family because... and he's like, what are you talking about? You're going to adopt a child? And she goes like, no, I have embryos. And he's like, oh, God. I mean, you almost died the last time. And I feel like there was some subtext also of like, why are you trying to have more children? Why are you trying to get Mark more enmeshed in this? So she's like, well, they have surrogates. And he's like, really? You think that's a good idea? He's basically like, please don't do this. This is such a terrible choice.
Yeah, and she says that legally the paperwork says that she owns her embryos, so she can do that if she wants to. And she's like, but it is scary because I don't know what his reaction will be. Could he file an injunction, make it part of the legal case? Yes. He will do whatever it takes, because the fact that this divorce has already gone on this long, he's always going to try to, and he's like a narcissist. He's a narcissist pig. So he's always going to try to like draw it out and try to make it as long as possible, make it a whole thing. I mean, by the way, we should also not forget that Mark is one of the reasons why Kenya is so like terrible to watch these days, because I don't feel like she can be her true self, because as long as she's going through this divorce, she has to put on this facade like she's this wonderful person who doesn't attack people or whatever. And I think that not physically attack, but just like, I think she is trying to put on this like her pageant face. And she, like, once this divorce goes through, I think we can get maybe old Kenya back. But for right now, she's just very, very controlling of her image. So then let's go to Margot at La Archive. And she's like, oh, my God, we haven't been to La Archive since I was working with Tammy. It just feels so good to be home. Oh, I left it a disaster last night. Did you see that? Her assistant's like, yes.
And Marlo,
she had to spend all night and all day cleaning this shit up.
And Marlo is like, she starts talking about, she's like, oh, so here are all my accomplishments. I mean, La Archive is amazing right now. We're almost working towards having an apostrophe in there. And I'm the head of wardrobe for Tammy Roman, which is cool. And I was on a set with Cynthia. And also I was featured in the magazine Simply Buckhead. I'm like, wow, really killing it.
I did Simply Buckhead, darling. So then there's a knock knock, and Scott Lee, the fake boyfriend, comes in, and they do some of that. I'm not buying 1 second of this. So she invites him to the wrap party, and he agrees to go. So then we go over to Drew, Ralph, and Dr. Ken.
Drew, of course, they're shooting this in some sort of, I don't know, medical office building or whatever. There's some building, might not even be medical. It's some office building, and they have clearly
It's a
production.
WeWork.
It's like a WeWork, and the production has basically figured out a way that they can shoot this scene with the three of them, maybe after hours or something. And Drew, of course, the actress is like, I can't believe they opened up the building for us. Like, okay, you're not Barbara Streisand, you know. Production gave $100 to the building manager and said, can we shoot in one of the offices?
I know. Also, I wanted to mention one thing about Marlo that I forgot. Kenya's been on such a tear all week on social media. She posted a picture that I didn't even notice from the show, but it's when Marlo is talking to her nephews, you see behind her that there's one of those electric chairs on the stairs.
Oh, yeah. I remember that photo was being posted.
Senior people to go up the stairs.
I love those chairs.
If anyone's wondering why I'm not buying this whole Scott Lee thing, basically we accidentally saw the Ted Turner chair, the Ted Turner lift.
So now Drew, she's like, she's telling Dr. Ken that every time she expresses her feelings, things go left, and Dr. Ken is like, well, this has been a journey for the past 2 years. So
how you
tell
guys
me,
have
Ralph.
come to me 2 times in 2 years. What a journey, huh? Wow, guys.
What a
so much
journey.
effort.
So Ralph is like, I wanted to see you, Dr. Ken, because, we're fighting for a marriage. And, I've been working on myself. Like, hasn't been a mutual thing where we do it together, like go to counseling together. But I've been working on myself. Like, so, I'll think about the changes I've been making. I'm like, okay, Ralph, what are the changes you've been making in your non-therapy working on yourself? Okay. And so he's like, well, the other day I left the room. That's a pretty big change. And I thought, like,
wow,
you
Ralph,
meant
what a huge step. You ditched the marital bed. Great one. Gold star.
Exactly. At first, I thought he meant like we were having an argument and I walked away instead of blowing up. But he was literally talking about he moved into the guest room.
He moved out. Yeah. And the way he put it, he goes, Drew says, I feel like it's a big deal. Ralph hasn't been present for marriage counseling. And Ralph says, it hasn't been collectively between you and I. But I've been working on myself. It's like, what does that mean? What does it mean? So Drew's like, yeah, he moved out of the bedroom, so he's very disconnected. And Ken's like, one thing I've learned about the two of you is you absolutely love each other, but you are very disconnected. I have not seen the love here.
Where's the love?
I don't know how Ken got that. We've seen all of the therapy sessions on this show, so I have no idea where he got that. But
Well, he needs to say that to keep them as clients. So Ralph is like, well, you know what? Like, me moving out of the bedroom is me getting to a place where I'm comfortable. And he's like, well, how does that feel, Drew? And she goes, alone. But I think he's happy. And Ralph goes, it's liberating. I'm like, well, this is a great sign. That's what you always want to hear from your spouse. I moved away from you, and now I feel liberated.
And Drew's like, yeah, well, it wasn't discussed with me, so it just seems kind of irresponsible. I mean, even the kids are noticing and asking why he's sleeping in the other room. And he goes, that's a lie. And she's like, no, JoJo texted me. Like, I don't have to lie. You want to use that narrative? Here. I think Dad is sleeping in the guest room, and everyone's mad that they don't get to sleep with you. And I said, it's all good, honey. I'm getting home late, and he's working in the morning, and it'll be back to normal after the film. And he's like, yeah, but see, it wasn't a concern until you created all that. You know, it's about how you say it, you know?
She said it perfectly nicely, you know? And
Yeah.
so Ralph's like, Dr. Kent, okay, it's about me making changes that make me feel good because I have a right to do that too. I'm getting to a place where I can be more liberated and like free and like be able to smell the roses, the fruits of my labor. What is he talking? The fruits of what is he literally? What is he talking about? That he is getting by moving to the guest room, he can now smell the fruits of his labor.
No idea. He makes no sense. And he's like, I haven't been able to take advantage of that. So me leaving hasn't been because I want to leave. It's so Drew could be comfortable and I could be comfortable. And it's worked out. And Drew likes the heat at 82 and I like it more at 68.
Oh, if only they had realized the thermostat was at the center of all their issues.
Commercials. Here comes one right now.
He's like, I don't know why you're making these faces, Drew. The reality of it is, I look at the situations that have been put in place, and Drew can win and get what she wants, and I can win and get what I want. I don't think she's winning right now. I think that she's saying she wants to be with you, and you are running away from her.
Yeah, these scenes are just sad between these because this guy's obviously just an abusive piece of shit and always has been. And so you're like, run, but then you also see the reality of having all these kids. And he's not going to make a divorce easy. He's not going to just be like, hey, let's get divorced. I'll give you half of everything and continue to. And I'll just keep giving you as much child support as possibly, It's depressing to watch it because he just wanted to be there like so much earlier. You know what I mean?
Well, it's also like,
just say, run. Like this time we've had a chance to say run, but she's already been with this piece of shit and had children and stuff.
And I think he really believes his own bullshit. So, Drew is saying that like Ralph is, avoiding and deflecting, and he had like the movie's over, but he still hasn't come back into the room, and she's willing to turn the heat down. And Ralph is like, you know what? Her best friend sleeps in separate rooms, so it's all good. Like they've been married longer than we have, and they sleep in separate rooms, and they're living their best life. And she goes, they also filed for divorce.
And he goes, who hasn't filed for divorce? So.
What? Dr. Ken is...
That's where we're at with those two.
Well, I like Dr. Ken.
Okay.
Dr. Ken's great conclusion that he draws from this. He's like, well, what I've observed is that, yeah, I think you guys need more counseling.
Yeah. And he goes, at some point, you have to look at each other and you have to ask yourself, do I really want to be with this person? And do I really want to be with this person? I was like, well, that's a good one. Also before you marry somebody, you should sleep with them in the same room and see if the temperature is okay for the both of you. Sorry for the hiccup, but wow.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that because I was thinking about that song, the Pina Colada song. You know that song? If you like Pina Coladas, it's about like a husband and wife who are dissatisfied in their marriage. And then they put out a personal ad and they answer their own personal ads without realizing it. And they show up on this date to basically cheat on each other, and they find it's themselves and they like rekindle. And I was just thinking about that song. One of the lyrics is, I was like, it's fine. Maybe it's fine if you don't know that your spouse doesn't like pina coladas. But how do you not know that your spouse likes getting caught in the rain? Like, I think like you've got to be somewhere down that path. You have to have been in the rain at least once and been like, and your spouse says something like, you know what? I actually love the rain. Like, are you just not listening? And I kind of feel like that's what Ralph is like with the thermostat. Like, he is the sort of person to get 8 years down into a marriage and never realize that Drew likes getting caught in the rain.
Yeah. Like, you don't know. How do you not know that it's always cold in your room? Weird. Hopefully Candy will pay for Todd to write a song about that.
Yeah.
So then everybody's getting glammed up for this premiere party, and Don Juan has made a walk of stars with everybody's name. 8 out of 10 of them are Todd Tucker, but it's the thought that counts. So that was nice.
Also, hilariously, the lead actor, Rob Riley from the past, refuses to have his face shown on Bravo. So, like, every time they showed the poster of this movie, his face is blurred out. I think that is amazing and hilarious.
I love that he's too classy to be on Bravo, but he's not too classy to film a Todd Tucker movie. Okay. Okay, buddy.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Exactly.
So basically, here we start the Festival of Arrivals, which I know must have triggered you because it was 20 minutes of people saying hello.
It did go on. I started my timer at the 26-minute mark. It just people were arriving and arriving. It went on for 4 minutes. 4 straight minutes, which is a long time. It's a long time to watch people walking in. But it was like, here comes Candy. There's T.I. There's Tiny. There's Kenya. There's Kenya hugging Candy. Now Kenya's hugging Akilah. Here's Akilah. Now Akilah's hugging Candy. Now Candy's hugging. Now here comes Sonia. And Sonia's with Ross. And Ross has got to say hi to Todd. And Todd's saying hi to Ross. And Sonia says hi to Kenya. And Sonia says hi to Akilah. It's like we have to see every possible combination of hugs.
Yeah, a lot of hugging. So then Courtney comes in. Sound of Courtney, and she tries to say hi to Allison, and Allison won't have it, and so she goes, "Oh, okay, now my bad. Well, maybe we should talk," because Allison says, "Yeah, it is your bad, and after what she's gone through, I would like to ask you a few things."
When I looked at you across the table, I had asked you, "Did you call my sister a bitch?" And you looked at me right in the face and you said no. And I don't want people to lie. Be honest. We could have gotten past it. And Courtney is like, "Well, it wasn't a lie in the moment." And then Courtney does. I mean, Courtney is pretty good at like fully changing her story and acting like that was her story all the time. I guess gaslighting too. I guess it runs in the family because she's like, "No, I said bitch. I said that bitch in the reference. Yeah, I definitely called her a bitch. Yeah."
And Drew's like, "So to who, Sonia?" She said, "No, to you." And Drew's like, "I'm flabbergasted. She actually admitted it." And Courtney tells us, "The only reason I'm apologizing is I just want her to shut the fuck up."
Drew's like, "I was saying, who are you calling a bitch? And you never said it was actually me." And she's like, "Just don't ever call me a bitch again because I didn't deserve that." And Courtney is like, "Have you ever called her a bitch?" And Alice's like, No, I absolutely never called her a bitch. Not even when I completely put my life to the side for 20 years. I never called her a bitch once. Not even when I was crumbling and she'd call me up on the phone and said, "I need a latte right now. Put down your pen and whatever script you're working on for Amen because I'm the star here." I never called her a bitch.
And Allison tells us the only reason she's accusing me of calling Drew a bitch is because she called up Ralph, and Ralph has told her that I've called her a bitch before. And I'm not going to give her the pleasure of admitting that I called her a bitch, which I thought was kind of funny. So then...
also, Kenya, in the middle of this fight, they're going back and forth. And Kenya just... This is the Kenya that I love. Kenya just cuts through. She has to walk across the room, and she could walk any way, but she decides to cut right between Drew and Courtney, and she cuts through. She goes, "Excuse me, these hands are a real problem," because Courtney's doing her hand thing. I just love that Kenya just goes out of her way just to bust through this and just shit on Courtney and just keep on going.
So they're all annoyed by this stupid fight, right? And Marlo and Munyeta come, so there's 10 more minutes of hellos and yeses and like highs. And then Marlo's like, "You see how I said hi to Kenya, but I didn't make eye contact? That's because it would release the beast, and I'm not going to do it." So then Sheree shows up, so everybody says hi for another 10 minutes. And then the movie, The Pass, is introduced.
Yeah, so we see a trailer for The Pass, and again, the actor's face is all blurred out in it, and everyone's like, "Wow, that trailer was spicy. Well, this is exciting." And Todd is very proud of the fact that they just wrapped filming like 5 days ago, and they already have a trailer ready. I'm like, why are you advertising how much of a rush job this movie is? This is not good marketing.
I know. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that you got that incredible trailer in just a week of footage.
It probably was easy because there's probably only one take for everything, so you just go through it.
And Candy and Joyce Joyce shows up and talks to Candy, and she's like, "As long as you're happy, I'm proud of you, honey." And that's kind of the end of their non-storyline. I was like, well, we had a lot of implied storyline this year with Joyce, but I guess Joyce is just like, "I'm still here to be a bitch, Candy."
That's right, because Joyce was supposed to go to therapy, and they talk about it, but she was supposed to go to therapy, and so I think I mentally at some point I was expecting we'd see Joyce and Candy in therapy together, but they're like, "No, let's not do that." Another win for the production.
And seeing that Todd wrote this movie in a 5-minute span somewhere in this season, I guess it didn't go well because the whole movie is still about how mean she is to Todd. So
yeah. So now Drew gets up on stage and performs "You Already Know," which goes on for so long. It goes on long enough that they can do almost the entire cast wrap-up things. So even though Candy didn't take home a Tony this year, she's not giving up on her EGOT dreams. She and Todd are producing a revival of The Wiz, and the past is completed and has found a new home. It's available to stream on Peacock right now. That's literally what it said.
And then Sheree's flashbacks was her fibroids shrinking. And she's still friends with Martell. And then Marlo's still with Scott Lee. And she's working on getting her record expunged. And then we see Kenya's Kenya Moore Hair Care opening as a flashback. And it says Kenya's growing her family of products.
Yeah. And again, and through all this, we keep cutting back to Drew lip syncing terribly to her own song. She cannot get her lips aligned with her own lyrics. All you have to say is "You already know," and it's so slow. You already know. She's like singing like rhubarb turquoise or something.
Yeah. And so basically we get the after thing, slow motion as everyone parties because literally nothing happened on this show this season. Real Housewives of Atlanta season 15 wrapped filming on January 28th. Boom, boom. Filming resumed March 1st after Drew filed for divorce. Boom, boom.
So here's a bad sign. The first headline they throw up is from Perez Hilton. Real Housewives of Atlanta divorce. Drew Sidora files 1 hour before the husband does the same. Details here. I'm like, man, if Perez Hilton's the first thing you go to, I mean, that really just speaks to the sadness, you know? You can give it like a TMZ. Give anything.
Yeah. And then it becomes a telephone game of everybody reading it. Starts with Marlo, and she's like, "That's our next chapter. Oh my gosh, what's your next chapter? The streets are talking." And then Kenya reading it. "This is sad. They showed their wedding picture."
No one is surprised. They are trying so hard to seem shocked. No one is surprised. I kind of feel like at a certain point, like maybe they're just taking footage of them reacting to Scandival. They're like, this is the closest we're going to get to some sort of emotion from this cast.
Sonia and her husband are like, "Wow, that is so sad." And then Marlo FaceTimes someone, and she's like confused because one headline says that he filed, another headline says she filed, and she's like, "This is like Michael and William playing Mario Kart. Drew must have thrown a banana peel."
Yeah. And then Sonia, I loved Sonia. It makes no sense. I loved Sonia describing it to Ross because he does not give a shit. Because she's like, wow, like even the party for the birthday, like they look like they're in love, and then like it's like a week later they get divorced, and he's like, you never know what's gonna happen. Like, I don't know, what do you want me to say? That's sort of a nice generic response to that. Like, wow, it's crazy, huh?
So then we find out the big gossip from Marlo. The streets are talking. What they're saying is that she's dating Ty, the basketball player Mimi's ex. So we saw Ty backstage partying with Drew, getting ready to do her lip sync song. She said, "Hi, Ty." She hugged her. They did some cheers with the big group, and that was all we really saw of her. But now we know, dun, 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 she's being accused of having Ty as her girlfriend.
Yeah. So Manyetta's saying, Drew and I were talking on the set of The Past, available on Peacock. And Drew says, if me and my husband don't work out, I'm going to go talk to my crush. So we're laughing, and I'm like, who's the crush? And she says, Ty. So that's Manyetta's big
So then we
take.
go to Sonia's house. And this is really sad. So Sonia ended up losing her baby, and she was basically, Dr. Jackie told her, oh, yeah.
Basically,
yeah.
Yeah, like the child was no longer growing, and so they were going to have to remove the child. And then Sonia was like, well, I've got to go to work. So she had to go to New York, and it seemed like, okay, she'd have time to go to New York and then come back, but she didn't, and it led to this like very dangerous and scary medical situation where she lost a lot of blood and she thought she was going to die, etc. It was just like very, very, very terrible. And what was really hard was that Deuce, every night Deuce would come in and lay his head down on her stomach and make a prayer that there'd be a healthy baby and that it would be a sister. And so they were gonna like maybe not tell Deuce at first, but then Deuce did the prayer and it broke her heart, so she had to go tell Deuce, and he started to cry, and he really was like, he took it hard, and then she starts to cry. She tells the story because she's telling her mother, and it's very, that's like so sad. I mean, the silver lining of it is knowing that Sonia now is in the throes of pregnancy again, and it seems like this pregnancy is going along better. So like there is like a silver lining, but it was like a very sad scene.
So then it's March 3rd, 2023, 5 days after filing divorce. Drew goes to the interview studio. Jason, her makeup artist, is also there.
Yeah,
and
beautiful hair. By the way, props to Jason for that gorgeous hair.
Sheree is like, she's in another room finishing up her interview. And so she's like, I gotta go. But then we see the camera kind of go to the ceiling, which I guess they do to let them know that they're done filming. But it keeps filming them anyway because they're shady assholes on these shows.
The camera never stops. So then Sheree goes in the room where Drew is getting her makeup done by Jason, and she hugs her, and she's like, I know we've had our differences, but I don't wish this on anyone. And Drew's saying her mom hasn't been able to come in to at this moment because her dad has been really ill, and Sheree's like, yeah, that's like my dad, he just died like 2 days ago. And Drew's like, wait, what? And so they hug, and God, I felt so bad for Sheree. God, just sort of like drop that one right in there, So then Sheree leaves, and then Drew's now getting into glam some more, and then some more. And I'm like, why are we watching Drew getting into glam for an interview? I don't understand why we're watching this.
She's trying to breathe through it. It's the trauma
like,
of all of it.
Can we just get to the interview? This is
and then
a little
Ralph
indulgent.
comes to sit for his interview. Are you ready, Ralph? Are you ready, Drew? And yes, we're ready to tell you everything. Which, by the way, spoiler alert for the next 10 minutes of this, they tell us nothing.
Nothing.
They tell us nothing.
And none of
all.
this is
So I'm glad we
surprising.
picked up filming to know fucking nothing from this show. You guys, what's the point? What's the point of even going to work on this show? Who's working there? Fire them all.
The only upside was watching Drew really, like, again, just really lean into being an actress, because she was like, she sits down, she goes, I was just thinking about how when I was here with Ralph and we were in such a good place. And that's like a flashback to 2 months ago where Drew is saying that like he has a passion for music, and you smell like husband right now. And they both smile really big in their fake marriage. And Drew be like, those days are past. She's so dramatic.
So for Drew, she's like, a lot of things have been going on in the marriage. I lost my voice, and I allowed things no woman should allow. I mean, I allowed Tampa. Like, okay, well, we knew that.
Yeah,
and
3
then
years
we
ago.
cut to Ralph, and he goes, so I asked for a divorce. And he's wearing a Givenchy sweater. It's like, he's so gross. And he goes, we ended up getting into a pretty big argument, and that's when I said I wanted to file for divorce. And the producer says, what happened? And he goes, hold on, let me call my lawyer. Am I allowed to talk about anything? Nope. Okay, nope, can't talk about anything. I was like, then why'd you pick up filming again? Stop wasting my fucking time. Dude.
Hold on, I got another call from my lawyer. Hold on, yeah. It's a 32-inch inseam. Yeah. Oh, he's also my tailor. So anyway,
he's making me a ham sandwich on top of a tailor shop. The only fucking person who still knows romance in this town.
So
I served Drew divorce papers with a Lunchable.
So now the producer says like, hey, so in Drew's filing, she says that there was some kind of infidelity, and then we see a headline that Ralph Pittman is a serial cheater and an abuser in a copy of the newspaper. We all knew that quarterly, and Ralph is like, yeah, we're going to respond to that in our pleading. Okay, we're not going to do this right now. As the producer's
He
like,
just kind of a laugh. He's like, yeah, we'll be responding.
And the producer's like, did you ever move back into the room with Drew? He goes, yeah, I came back in right after the movie. And of course, Drew is like, no, he never moved back in.
Yeah, which we know is a lie because you guys were already shooting right after the movie. So we know that. So Drew just can't talk about it anymore because she's crying.
This is too new. I can't talk about this. It's too much. It's too emotional. It's too emotional. Let's take it.
she's also got 27 messages. So she starts looking through them, and then we get boom, boom. Damn it, Topo Chico. Sorry,
We do
I
get a
got the
boo.
hiccups.
We get a boo from the audience. Boo.
So then Mimi Faust posts a story suggesting that her ex, Ty Young and Drew, had an affair.
And this is at 8 p.m. when the story goes up. So now it's 8:01 p.m. and we're back with Drew. Drew, who, in case, for those who don't remember, at 7:57 needed to take a break because she's too emotionally caught up to talk about anything. So the producers are talking to Ralph and they're like, are Drew and Ty dating? And Ralph is like, yeah, well, Ty and Drew have a air quote friendship together, and that's as far as I can say. I can't talk about it, but what I will do is I'm going to put my fingers together like this and have them touch each other right in the center of the fingers, almost like two pairs of scissors, but I can't say anything beyond that. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I'll let cousin Courtney do it instead. I already told her what to say. So then we get Courtney of all people, and she's like, "Well, I heard Drew is fun and bisexual," and I was like, "Really?" So I asked Ralph, and it was no secret. Like, she has fun with girls too, but he's aware of it. And so then Drew, who's just been doing her whole,
I can't talk.
Getting of a divorce. Now she's smiling from ear to ear. And she's like, is this everywhere? Oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. Do you see this? This is going viral, Tom. And she's like laughing and smiling so big.
She is not, there's no exaggeration in what Ronnie is saying. Like, she literally has the biggest smile on her face. It's actually like disgusting because she is so excited that her scandal is like taking off.
So Courtney tells us that she knows, here's what she knows. She knows that she visits the girlfriend in Texas. She knows that Ralph has a lot of the quote unquote discovery because when you're going through the divorce, you have to provide discovery. And Ralph is pretty confident in his discovery. And I'm like, okay, but why are you acting like you just won something when you just told the entire country that Ralph has said that he's fine with her hooking up with other people? So
Right.
you're not really helping Ralph's case either if he's going to try and blow this into like some huge scary affair, and they actually did have a pass.
So then the camera goes up again and we just see the top of Courtney's forehead. So it's like a hot mic moment. And she's like, I have pictures of them on my phone, but I wasn't going to say that on camera. Y'all shouldn't leave me in here with the vodka for that long. Now we see why she was pushing so hard for that adoption. She wanted to adopt that child so she could be with her gay lover. And then he goes and pays the bills.
So then the producer's like, who is this Ty? Ty Pennington? He used to host Extreme Home Makeover. He has a sandpaper face. No, the other Ty. Delicious food. I love chicken pad Thai. It's delicious. The one you're fucking. Drew, come on. But she's loving it. She's loving the attention.
And again, as we saw from the past, she's not a great actress. So she suddenly is like, she's I believe, a former WNBA player. And I met her on the set of Candy's movie, which I was in. And I saw her there, and she was tall. She was tall, lesbian-ish. I think I saw her. I think her name is Rye, like the bread, rye bread. I don't know. I don't really know her very well. I don't know.
So the producer's like, is there any truth to the blogs? And she's like, I really haven't logged on. And she's like literally scrolling through her phone.
I know.
And she's like, yeah, I didn't know about any of this until right now. And so he's like, so have you heard the rumor before? And she goes, I have heard it from Ralph. And he goes, oh, so you think that Ralph leaked it to the blogs? And she's like, yeah, Ralph just started to conjure up things that maybe I was doing. And there were various things. And this allegation was one of those things.
And I was like, okay. And so then...
so now I have to care that... Look, I'm sorry. I know this is their big scandal, but now I have to pretend I care about Drew. When Drew has been making this whole thing about Ralph being the cheater, this and that, but now we're going to find out that they've had an open relationship this whole time. Is that what's about to happen?
Probably. I don't know. It's like I don't even care enough to be annoyed at like the subtly homophobic, subtext from Ralph and Courtney. I just think the whole thing is so stupid. Like, I think Drew is such a terrible actress. I think Ralph is terrible. I think this scandal is just like not deeply interesting. It's like, it's not a scandal when you watch two people in a terrible marriage for 3 years and they finally decide to get a divorce. It's just not a scandal. There's no element of surprise here. There's no element of fascination. And like, okay, maybe Drew has a lesbian lover. It doesn't really have a gravitational pull for me.
Yeah, I really don't. I don't care. So that's the season of Atlanta. There are going to be 2 parts to this reunion. Now, the reunion preview looks really good. Atlanta's previews are always at least entertaining.
They do good previews. I don't know. I'm honestly, I was really turned off by the little comic bit they did at the top of the preview of like Andy Cohen reading some sort of newspaper. And I'm like, this season has relied way too much on produced comic bits, you know, in place of actual substance. And I'm like, if this carries on into the reunion, that's not going to be great. I think the stuff between Ralph and Drew will be hilarious because they're both so delusional and so fake that watching them duke it out in front of Andy will be interesting. But I think it's going to be a rough 2 reunions. I don't even care that I have a bad attitude about it anymore. You know, I used to be like, I don't want to yuck on people's yum. I don't give a fuck. The show is terrible right now.
Yeah, the show needs a lot of help. Well, that brings us to the end of the season. We will be back later this week with so much. A couple of Below Decks. We've got a Orange County coming. We've got a Southern Charm trailer. We've got a new Dwell Hello, which is our House Hunters premium podcast over on Wondery. So a lot of stuff going on. So stay with us. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Watch What Crappens would like to thank its premium sponsors.
Know Your Worth with Jason Kurth.
Ain't no thing like Allison King.
Ashley Savoni, she don't take no baloney.
She's not just a Sheila, she's a Daniela. Itchels. Aaron McNicholas, she don't miss no trickolas.
She's never scary. It's the Green Fairy.
Hava Nagila Weber.
Jamie, she has no last namey.
Sipped some scotch with Jessica Trotch.
Kristen the Piston Anderson.
She's always supplying. It's Kelly Ryan.
Megan Berg. You can't have a burger without the Berg.
You're never alone with Lacey Monteleone.
Let's give a kisserino to Lisa Lino.
There ain't no problem that Sarah Salvia can't solve ya.
Ruru LaRue.
The Bay Area Betches.
And our super premium sponsors, the incredible edible Matthews sisters.
Somebody get us 10 cc's of Betsy MD.
She's not harsh. She's Jill Hirsch.
We're taking the gold with Brenda Silva. Erica, 500 Days of Summers.
She's the queen bee. It's Sarah Lemke. We love him madly. It's Kyle Pod Shadley.
Don't get salty with Christine Pepper. Let's go on a bender with Lauren Fender.
My favorite Murdo, Karen McMurdo.
Nobody holds a candle to Jamie Kendall.
Give him hell, Miss Noel.
Can't have a meal without the Emily Sides.
Let's get real with Caitlin O'Neill.
We want to hang with Liz Lang.
Shannon, out of a cannon, Anthony. Let's take off with Tamla Plain.
She ain't no shrinking Violet Kuchar. We love you guys.
Hey Prime members, you can listen to Watch What Crappens ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app today. Or you can listen ad-free with Wondery Plus in Apple Podcasts. Before you go, tell us about yourself by completing a short survey at Wondery.